Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Elena and this is my Wonderland. We are filming our January and February wrap up today, and that is because this is my first consecutive year doing YouTube. I'm actually really excited about it. I haven't really ever done wrap ups, and I've already tried to film this once, and I did 7 minutes. And my head was cut off the whole time. So, round 2. Let's go. I read 15 books for the month of January and February combined. And look how chunky my reading journal's getting. I'm so excited and happy about it. I read 6 books in January and 9 books in February. This book up here I read, as well as these books right here. So let's go ahead and go through the books that I read physically and that I could get off of like my TBR shelves. If you're new here, I started the year with 171 physical books unread. I bought 9 over the last 2 weeks, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them are read. So basically, they don't count. Okay, they don't count. Quite. So the first 2 books I want to talk about actually kind of go together, and that's Come As You Are and Come Together. These are by the same author, Emily Nagoski. Both were 4-star reads for me. I read this one as an ARC, and I listened to this one as an audiobook. What I have to say is they're very educational. They're very sex positive. That's what they're about, basically. The first book is very heteronormative, and the author really listened to the readers as well as did their own research and came back with a gender non-conforming consensus, as well as touching bases on the gender role issues we have in America and how that can affect our lives behind closed doors. So those were both 4 stars. The next book I want to talk about is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This book I got to buddy read with my friend Jasmine. She is on Blue Healers and Bookshelves. She has a blue healer named Foxy and a Maine Coon named Goose, and they are so cute, and Jasmine is so sweet. If you don't mind, and go ahead to go to her channel and look at one of her videos. She also just posted her wrap-up video for February, I think, and January as well. Doing the same thing as me. Or I'm doing the same thing as her. See what I did there, Jasmine? That's for you, my friend. So this book was really good. It's like a gothic fantasy. It gave me Red Riding Hood vibes. This is a great place for beginner fantasy readers because there were a couple aspects that I could immediately guess. So this is 4 stars for me. Because of that, it's not a 5-star. But I absolutely loved Raven, our main male character, as well as Elspeth and the Nightmare. If you read this book, you'll understand that there's a phrase that says he came for the girl and he got the nightmare. That's all you need to know. It's good. I liked it. It deserves some of the hype that it has. And read it if you want to read it. Next up is my 5-star read, A Woman Is No Man by Ataf Rum. As you can tell, I annotated this book. And no, it's not a lot of annotations, but it's also a lot of annotations. There were really heavy things in this book dealing with trauma, grief, generational curses being broken, generational trauma being experienced and passed down through women, as well as the men in this family. It was a very heavy book, and honestly, I am really glad that I read it. I did this as a group read on Instagram, which made my experience so much better. This was her first novel, and I want to read everything now. I want to read everything she's written, not wrote. She just came out with a new book called Evil Eye, but this book focuses on 3 Palestinian women, and one is like 18, so I would say a young girl, or a young adult, but it focuses on them throughout the novel, and it's just so incredible, so raw, so vulnerable, and honestly, everybody should read it if they can handle the trigger warnings. They're pretty heavy, and just know going in, it's not going to be an easy time. My first book of 2024 was The Sun and Her Flowers by Rupi Kaur. This book was really good. It's poetry. The prose is beautiful. The content is beautiful. It talks about healing, self-love, broken heart, immigrant parents, everything in between, and all of it, all above. This was also a 4-star read. The last physical book I'm going to talk about is King of Greed. Now, this book was on my 24 books in 2024, and so was A Woman Is No Man in One Dark Window. So I knocked out 3 already. And this book, y'all. So let's start with, I gave it a 3-star rating. Well, I gave it 3.75. There was 2 epilogues, which unnecessary. There was a trope that happened twice, which was unnecessary. And I just felt like there honestly could have been more groveling, but I did like this book way better than the second book. Just being honest. I don't know if this means that Anna Huang is going to be a one-hit wonder for me. I have no idea. I really hope not, but I will be buying King of Sloth, which will be the new one, I think, coming out sometime late summer, August, sometime around there. Yeah, just a little disappointed again, but also way better than the second, so could be worse. Next up, we're going to talk about all the books that I read either audibly or I read them on my Kindle. I will start with my most recent read, which was our first book club pick. That is Woman of Light. This is by Callie Fajardo Anstein. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. This was okay. This was a 3-star read for me as well. It does focus on generations. Like, it spans through generations. Our whole group collectively decided that, the plot, it is no plot, okay? That's the plot. You're basically kind of like a fly on the wall of everyone's lives as they're going through colonization, as they're also people of color, and seeing how racist people were blatantly ignorant on purpose. It was just kind of hard in that aspect. I listened to part of it audibly because of that. Hearing all the racial slurs was really uncomfortable, as it's supposed to be. It should never be comfortable. But there were some key elements in this book like that I feel like, yes, are very important and should be talked about. However, we all collectively just did not like it because we all thought we would have more magical realism in this book, and that's just because of the way it's pitched. The synopsis started off with saying our main character reads tea leaves, and so I was like thinking, okay, like we're gonna have some magic. No, it's more so like, as a Native American reading tea leaves, and like that's their culture and that's something they do. passed down generations. It's not like magic as in like, oh, we have special powers. Not like that. And so I think that was like a hit and miss for some of us and expectation wise. So that kind of makes sense. The next book I want to talk about is Out There Screaming by, okay, so edited by Jordan Peele by almost 50 plus Black authors. It is a horror anthology. It was my first 5-star read of the year. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Some of the stories do feel really unfinished or rushed. And the reason why I give it a 5-star is because I took away from my experience. I found multiple new authors I want to read from. I literally just bought 2 books from 2 authors in that novel. And that's a big thing for me. The other thing was it was broadening my reading perspective, and overall I liked most of the stories that were being told. It was just some of them were really miss for me. Some of them felt very unfinished and confusing, and like it just ended abruptly instead of like, I don't know, you only had like 20-ish pages or so, at least like that's what the ebook said, in a chapter. So they didn't have a lot of time to formulate their plot, if that makes sense. And so because of that, I feel like it hindered their stories. So with that said, everything else in the book, fantastic. The introduction, fantastic. I wish there was a little bit more of Jordan Peele because his name is on the cover. Books with Lala said this recently too. They weren't a huge fan of the book, but they have also more experience in horror and thriller genres, whereas I am still dipping my toe in horror. Like I still feel like a baby, basically. The next book I want to talk about is going to be called Osgood as She Gets. This is an arc that I was gifted by the author. The cover, Osgood as She Gets by Cooper S. Beckett. I gave this 4.5. This was fantastic. This is also in the horror genre, but it's more so like a horror comedic outlook. You are faced with Osgood, our main character, is faced with teens and young adults are unaliving themselves or, being hacked off. And there's no real reason as to why these things are happening in such like a quick pace too, like a huge turnaround, until something called the graveyard game pops up. And when you're like, go in the bathroom and say Bloody Mary 3 times and look in the mirror and she's gonna pop out and scare you. It's like that, but like this generation's version. And I will say that in the book, it does have generational, like a Gen Z style verbiage. So like these kids are on TikTok recording themselves. If that's not your vibe, I would pass. But if you don't care about that, like that doesn't hinder your reading experience, 100% recommend. This was so intriguing, like just the platform giving us Osgood, who's 43 years old, chronic pain, queer as hell, also struggles with addiction and struggles with their ex who is also living with them, who is also working with them, and who is also trying to see new partners. It was just like almost kind of chaotic energy, but the way this book starts is hit the ground running, okay? It was so good, and the pace is fast paced the entire time. Like, in my opinion, I didn't feel like it slowed down. This is the 3rd book in a series. It could be read as a standalone. I read it as a standalone, and honestly, fantastic. The other few books that I read are going to be audiobooks. So I don't have the covers on me right now, but I will pop them up here if I can figure out how to do that and tell you a little bit about them. So let's see. Books we have not talked about. The first book I want to talk about is The Love Con. This book is so cute. The author's name is Sierra Glass. It was just like, I don't know how to describe it. Okay, super sweet, fun time. It was super enjoyable. Like, it's about a cosplayer who is a Black female. She is plus size. This was also for the Diverse Baseline Reading Challenge to read from a BIPOC author that features a fat main character. And so this woman is in a cosplay TV show competition. And the final finale part of the show, they're like, okay, contestants, you'll be going home and you'll be doing your costumes with your partners. And the main character is like, excuse me, what? You mean like friend? And realizes no. They're talking about like partner. Like, you're my significant other. So she decides to say her best friend is her lover. And on national TV, and then goes home and she's like, hi. So I kind of did a big thing, and he's like, yeah, you did. But I mean, I'm pretty down for it. Okay, friends to lovers. This is my first friends to lovers in a really, really, really long time. I can't even remember the last time I read it. But that book was so good. Chef's kiss. I would like to read another book by Sierra Glass. It was honestly just a fun time. The next book I want to talk about is going to be Salt Houses. This book is very heavy. It is also about Palestinian families going throughout their generations as well. And I listened to it audibly. I gave it a 5-star. I wrote a couple notes down, so I'm just going to read them off really quickly. You have multiple perspectives throughout this book, and I enjoyed having all the different perspectives throughout the storyline. At first, it was like you're kind of seeing like this forbidden love. This book is absolutely heartbreaking. I felt gutted seeing people leave their family behind for a better life, for a better opportunity for their children. It's really, it hits home, and just like it puts you in the perspective of what immigrants go through for their family and to give themselves a better life and their children an opportunity of an actual life. I also wrote down there's a lot of death, sadness, hope, fear, true depictions of war. If you cannot handle things of this sort, especially with what is happening right now, highly do not recommend this book, because it's going to be so saturated with the war element and people passing away and abuse and just so much physical things that are actually happening right now. So if you can't read it right now, please put it on your backlist TBR, because it definitely should be read just at the right time for you as an individual. This was a global strike for Palestine. I made a Palestine flag and did this spread in my reading journal. There was a global strike January 21st through the 28th on Instagram, where you only uplifted Palestinian voices. If not, you didn't post at all. So the other book I listened to audibly was The 100 Years War on Palestine. Also gave this a 5-star. I personally had to take a break. I started this December 10th, and I did not finish it until January 31st. this is a very educational, but a lot of information. And so for me to digest the information properly and understand the research that I was trying to do, I needed to pause and take a step away and recollect my thoughts and bearings and just kind of grasp what they have been dealing with for this long. And this book only goes to 2017, and we are now in 2024. I personally can understand not knowing the full extent of things happening around us, but this is why we have to force and push ourselves limits to go and educate ourselves further. And this is what that book did exactly for me. It was not easy whatsoever, and I'm really glad I did it though. I don't regret listening to it. I want to move forward and get to a couple different audiobooks. The next audiobook is going to be A House of Hidden Meanings by RuPaul. I love RuPaul. I'm obsessed with him. I love Drag Race. It's so fun. My husband and I now make it like a family thing, us two watching Drag Race together. I just love it. It fills my heart with joy. So in February, I applied for Libro FM influencer program, and I got it. And the first book I saw was this on there, and RuPaul themselves narrates the book. I gave it a 4-star rating. I think a 4-star rating. If I'm being honest, I don't remember. I can look really quickly. But it was fantastic. Yes, 4 stars. I honestly loved the fact that Rue was narrating their own memoir. I can tell from the beginning of the book, like, this book was not going to be rainbow and sunshines. This is my life now. No, it started from the trenches in the bottom of where they began in their career and their life as just a normal teenager, and their struggle with addiction and their struggle to get sober, then moving into sobriety, how this affected every single thing in their life to success and fame. Because for a long time, Rue said that their goal and main focus was fame, 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 fame. So when they got there, they thought to themselves, what now? Literally, what now? They had never really had a moment to think of this place because they were so focused on getting to the goal. I understand now, after listening to this audiobook, why RuPaul holds up the pictures of his contestants as children and say, if you could talk to your little self right now, what would you say to them? It makes so much sense now, listening and hearing them process and deal with their healing and trauma. I can understand why they come from that standpoint and that they're trying to provide that to the community. Like, we don't have that open space to be vulnerable, especially men, especially gay men. Like, they're already struggling to be man enough or macho enough, whatever. All these dumb stereotypes that they have to meet. So Rue doing this in the show shows vulnerability. It shows compassion to yourselves. It shows how to love yourself, which is a huge thing with Rue, if you haven't seen the show. My next audiobook is going to be Devon and Chris Plan a Wedding. 5 stars. Oh, this book. Chef's kiss. Spicy, LGBTQ, and reality show again. I don't know if maybe I'm just like on a reality TV show kick via books, which is funny because my husband watches more trash TV than I do. But I still like trash TV. I'll be the first to say it. So here's a couple things that I wrote down in my journal that I just wanted to read. And I was like, this book is hot. It was like Married at First Sight, a reality TV show where couples have to convince their family they're engaged and getting married to said person. If they're successful, you win $100,000 if you're successful in convincing your family that you're actually about to marry this person and you're engaged. So you have a fake dating trope, you have strangers to lovers. Honestly, this was my favorite book in February. It was so freaking good. I enjoyed it so much. Such a fun time. Like, I can't even begin to move on from this book. The author is coming out with another novel sometime this year. I don't know when, but it's sometime this year. And I need to get it. Like, I want to buy it this time and read it physically. Trying to think and going through my journal to see if there's any other books. There is that book up there. I have decided I'm not going to talk about it. I prefer not to support that author anymore. So moving forward, I'm not going to be posting or sharing about them. Okay, that wraps up our wrap up. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. Have you read any of these books? And if you somehow got this far in the vlog, one, I love the heck out of you because thank you so much for actually supporting me all the way through. And two, leave the book stack emoji so I know you made it all the way to the end. I hope to see you guys soon on a new future video. Bye.